Dude, I love how you get the brass knuckles.
I gotta hype you. We're back with another episode. First, the sponsors. Head over to the website, johnbartoloshow.com. It's a complete list of the sponsors there, guys. There's a complete list down below. Support the show by supporting the sponsors. Go buy something. I want to thank a few of them now. Shout out to Sig Sauer. Go buy a gun. Buy a Sig. Shout out to Pulsar. Thermal imaging's coming down in price, guys. Hunt at night. It's easier. I want to give a special shout out to Secureit, Volquartsen, Right On Optics, Kenzie's Optics, of course, Ballistic Advantage, and everybody out there that supports the show. Go check out Brady Speed's podcast at Right On, and go check out Scott Volquartsen's show over there at Volquartsen Firearms. Guys, support the show, share. I got a special guest today. He's from back home. He's the only guy I would make an exception for special reasons that will remain private, but between us. But we got the one and only Dewie Vieira from SilencerCo, the king of kings.
Nothing special here, that's for sure.
Of course. What's going on, brother?
Not much. Just loving life, man.
It's great to have you. I've never been so pumped to have someone this year so far. Dude, it's only February, but...
Yeah, but I'm super stoked. Look, coming down from Utah, it was, I think, 25 degrees when I left Utah, and it's 70 degrees here. So I didn't bring any jackets or anything. It's awesome. But then walking in here, and I'm like, wow, this is just like, I'm like a kid in a candy store. There's crazy. All the things.
Could you have imagined that it would come to this?
No, not in a million years.
No brand would ever go for it because they're too fucking dumb.
Well, it's not.
I want to hear your answer on this one.
It's not that they're dumb. It's just that they have tunnel vision, very narrow views on everything, and they don't understand crossover. So the thing that I think a lot of different companies and a lot of different industries don't get is that you could be into more than just one thing. Like you could be a gun guy and be into watches. You could be a watch guy and be into photography. You could be a photography guy and be into cars and and all this. And you don't even have to be a guy. You could be a girl and be into all these things too. But they just focus on one type of thing, I guess. I don't know.
I went to a super large company in the business that rhymes with rock and offered them a conversation with Valentina Shevchenko, right, of the UFC.
They didn't get it.
And they were like, who?
They didn't get it.
Yeah. It went like this.
Wow.
I'm like, you have Chuck Norris. Why don't you get a real champion?
Walker,
and then,
Texas Ranger.
Yeah, you have Walker. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't.
It's the industry's so interesting. Now, you got sucked into this business. I know we talked about this the first time we did this.
Yeah.
And I know this is gonna sound weird coming from me, but you're someone that comes up a lot. I'm so proud of the trajectory that you've done in this business and where you are, and knowing where we come from, growing up in the same area. And I have this conversation with Dana, Jay, a lot of guys. It's something about the water in that area that just, there's a lot of tough, resilient guys just coming out of that area in our age range.
Just, it's part of growing up in that type of environment, that neighborhood where you're always fighting,
battling.
So even amongst friends, and actually it correlates great to this industry because you could be friends and still hate each other.
You don't know.
Same token.
It's so hard to, because it's hard to explain to people. Like, you have people that come up to you in this business and they're like, get out of here. Like they try to be a gatekeeper or whatever. Like we're saying, and you look at them and you're like, do you know where I'm from? Like, I'm not, this ain't going to stop.
No.
This ain't going to, like, Jesus Christ could fall off the cross. It ain't going to stop.
Well, and the reality is there's a way around everybody anyway.
Yeah.
There's no one person who's ever going to be the total gatekeeper. And if you know what you're doing, you just work your way around that impediment.
Right. Now, talk to me about SilencerCo, because I'm curious what you guys are up to. You've always been a forerunner in the business, and the marketing in the beginning, honestly, at the start of it, rivaled a lot of strong marketing operations. What are you guys up to now, and what are you doing?
So right now, we're in the process of actually, the company went through its restructuring a couple years ago,
right?
And we are in a stronger position than we've ever been, and I've been with the company for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And it's nice because we're looking at opportunities outside of just suppressors, right? We're SilencerCo, so we're known for manufacturing silencers, and we've been the largest silencer manufacturer in the world.
Insane.
By sheer volume. Nobody even comes close.
I believe that 100%.
But it's got some limitations because it's one product type. And it kind of goes right back to what we were talking about earlier, where you could be into that type of thing and be into other things too. And not everything. Well, let me backtrack a little bit too. So as companies get bigger, and I think they become a little bit more well-known, people tend to associate them with this very rigid, like corporate type
machine
structure. Yeah, you're just there, and it's pure like profit margin and EBITDA, and it's all financials and everything else because you've got stakeholders that you answer to. The reality is there is that, but you're still beholden to customers, and you should still be addressing the needs of the customer, regardless of what it is that they're interested in. But you also should kind of separate yourself from all the cookie cutter stuff out there. And as you get bigger, there's a lot, you see it, there's tons of cookie cutter stuff out there. Everybody, it's just like one Me Too thing after another. And there's ways to get around that if you're willing to think outside the box.
Yeah, you want to be careful. You want to have the brand recognition of a Browning, but you also don't want to put the logo on every fucking water bottle.
Dude, no. Well, not only that, but there's something to be said for like boutique style.
Slice of exclusivity.
Right.
Slice.
And so, the gun industry does a horrible job of addressing that. I like to look at it like
SIG gets it. See the Legion program? They get it to a point.
They're still commercializing it,
Yeah, I agree.
I like to take cues from other businesses. So I'm a big watch guy. I love the watch industry. I used to be a big guitar guy. I used to collect a lot of Les Pauls. So I like to look at companies like Gibson, and then, for better or for worse, you could look at a company like Rolex, arguably the largest, premium watch manufacturer in the world.
100%.
Reputation, right? They're known to make, over 1 million pieces, but the demand is so high, the wait list on certain
except no imitation.
Yeah. There's people pay exceedingly ridiculous amounts of money for a Rolex watch that's 15, 20 years old, right?
It's become a commodity.
It has. But what that company is still good for is, when they have their commercialized products that everybody's familiar with, but they don't hesitate to put a specialty model in the hands of somebody who is willing to pay a premium for it, and does give the brand additional recognition and notoriety, so to speak. Gibson does something to a lesser extent where they'll have like their custom shop, or they'll have various models that they'll only do for customers who are willing to kind of step up to the plate and say, hey, I want this.
Right.
And they'll do that. And I think that is outside of going to like a custom gun manufacturer who does like 1911s or something like that, or like a custom AR builder. There's very few like large companies that offer that type of,
coverage,
right?
Yeah. The industry's evolving too, where like you're talking about, mimicking a premium brand, where as an influencer, as someone that's a writer, or people that are out there, and I see it, Dave sees it, you see it.
Yeah.
We've reached a point where you can't just have an Instagram.
No,
like that's the Casio of offering yourself to these brands. If a brand's going to be a premium brand, you better be in a few channels, and you better be in something different.
Well, look, you can't just depend on social media for that anyway.
Right.
I mean, everybody in this industry and other industries. I mean, look at what's happened to Rogan, right? You put all your eggs in one basket with one medium, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or Spotify for that. That type of content, and you're instantly handicapped.
Yeah,
because they control you at that point.
They're all handicapped.
They can shut you down if you want. So you got to spread it out, and you got to do things in a different manner. You got to be unconventional, and there's ways to do that nowadays, I think.
Now, what did you think? What were your thoughts, you personally and as a brand, on SHOT Show and SHOT Show Happening 1 and 2? The what we got, the end product.
Yeah. So
be honest, don't bullshit.
I'm totally going to be honest.
Be honest.
Because
Larry's listening. Hi, Larry. I love Larry. He thinks like I'm mad at him. I love that fucking guy. I love the NSSF.
Dude, I'll tell you what. Traditionally, I do not like SHOT Show because
I like the NRA better always.
Well, the NRA is a different animal altogether because that's more of a consumer-driven show.
Yes.
The SHOT Show is different because it's industry-centric. But what I really, 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 and I'm not bullshitting you now.
Don't lie.
I really enjoyed this SHOT Show.
I did too.
And you know why? Because I actually got shit done. I got work done. I got more work done in the 2 days that I attended this SHOT Show than I did any other SHOT Show potentially combined. And that's not an exaggeration. I didn't have to deal with, jazzy carts. I didn't have to deal with like wannabe influencers, and like I didn't have to deal with airsofters coming from, mainland China who were just stepping all over each other, just trying to get pictures of the latest thing so they could rip it off. Didn't have to worry about people who really, by and large, had no business being at the show whatsoever because they don't work in the industry.
I'll definitely say the riffraff was weeded out.
It was. And the people who were there, who went to SHOT, were there because they wanted to actually get business done. And that's what I appreciated. So I got there, and I'll tell you what, it was exhausting. I mean, walk in, I had all my appointments. I had everybody that I needed to see, everybody that I wanted to drop in and see, all the product that I wanted to see from a collaborative effort and whatnot. All of that was done, but I was worn out, and it was everything that it needed to be. I come to Vegas enough where
you're here guys.
I mean, I'm here. It seems like once a month or so. And I've been here enough in my life where I don't go to SHOT Show because, it's in Vegas, so I'm going to do the Vegas thing, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, I come into town, I don't even go out. I go do my work, and then I'll go back to the hotel, I'll work out, and then I'll go to bed and get up and do the same thing all over again. It's just the way
Groundhog Day.
It's SHOT Show.
I have a dream. Okay, Martin Luther King, MLK. I do have a dream. I want SHOT Show to be successful and fun and exciting, and I think that it is. And I think this year, you're right, it was definitely a departure from what we were used to, which is high traffic, a lot of door kickers, window lickers, whatever you want to call them, tire kickers, that type of stuff. And a lot of riffraff, honestly, like people that don't really have a place there, but they're trying to form a place there. And like you said, you can't get business done.
Yeah.
I like a degree of exclusivity. So I could go one of two ways. Either open the doors and just sell fucking tickets to it, right? One, or have the wherewithal to say, we need to scale this in a meaningful way, because what I want to see down the line, Dewey, is I want to see brands like SilencerCo, which I know you already do it, brands like SIG, brands out there that are powerful and influential in the business. If you truly want to give back to the FFLs out there and you want to do business with the FFLs, go into the FFL, start doing micro events. You remember like the old WBCN street teams and everything?
So
like,
glad that you mentioned
that. Start doing that, don't you?
If I were king for a day, and they put me in charge of NSSF. This would be my suggestion. Take the show, break it down to a regional level, and then make sure that you cater it to the demographic that you know is going to be interested in whatever it is you decide to showcase at that particular regional event.
Right.
So if you're in the Southwest, if you're in Vegas and the Phoenix area, the South, like Arizona, Nevada, look, as far as I'm concerned, outside of like the state of Florida, the gun guys here in Arizona and Nevada are like my people, right?
And Texas to a degree. I would lump
certain
a portion of Texas.
Well, Texas is just so big; it's its own animal, and it encompasses everything, literally everything. I mean, they are gun guys through and through. But even then, there's some segmentation. But like here, I would be like, this would be tactical central, right? There'd be some long range precision stuff, but it would be tactical central because that caters to a lot of the guys that's what they're interested in.
Amen.
If you're going to do something in like Colorado or like Utah, Montana, obviously long range hunting, long range precision, that should be the focus. You go to like Southeast, like Florida, Jesus, it's not much different from how it is here, right? Texas, it's so broad as far as the interests are concerned. I mean, you could do everything there, but then at that point, you've got it really, I guess it's better organized, and you're really catering more towards the people, and open it up to the public too.
Because I agree.
You're going to get more traction that way, as far as I'm concerned. And that's just my opinion.
No, I agree, and I think brands are going to start to move in that direction of creating their own ecosystem,
Right.
okay, where they can be the sun and the planets can orbit around them.
Right.
And I think micro events are a conduit to that. At the end of the day, they want to produce their own content. So I think you're going to see things like the Big Daddy Unlimited shoot start to get its legs underneath it, because Tony wants to throw a lot of money around and he wants to do some stuff in the business. And shout out to Big Daddy Unlimited, by the way. I see a brand like SilencerCo eventually maybe easing into that and using its Salt Lake City, relationships and doing more.
Funny that you say that, because this year, it's one of the reasons why I came into town, because I had to talk to a local shop about getting, helping us coordinate this. We're bringing back what we previously called the Quiet Riot Tour. So it gives, end users, anybody interested in shooting suppress, the opportunity to kind of get out there and shoot a variety of different platforms, whether you're talking about rimfire stuff, centerfire pistol, centerfire long gun, bolt guns, everything's suppressed though. And it's open to the public. It'll be free. So free ammunition, people like that. And really kind of, we'd love to get several thousand people out. So we're doing this on a regional basis. So we'll do one here more than likely, probably end of March, beginning of April. And then we'll do another one on the East Coast. We'll do one in Texas. We'll do one in the Southeast, and then the Pacific Northwest. At some point, that's going to be kind of challenging, because a lot of those
Pacific Northwest is that corridor is a tough corridor. I know John Wong's trying to do the TriggerCon, and he's trying to make something out of that area. You just don't get the traffic.
You do. So here's the thing.
It's so laser focused.
Dude, it's wild. So, okay. I worked TriggerCon with Rainier.
We've all been there, yeah.
Dude, it's a great
It's a high-end show. It's a well-done show. Now that he's got the food right. Sorry, John, I love you.
Dude, there's tons of gun guys out there, right? And they have the means to buy the coolest, most expensive gear you're ever going to find. They love gear. They love it.
Yeah, it's a hard market to tap, too.
Dude, I will never forget the first TriggerCon I went to. I'm sitting there, and I had guys coming up, and we're talking about our cans, and like some random guys would be like, I own that, like 15 cans in a row. Right. What else should I get? Like, I want all of the cans. Yeah, sorry.
All the cans.
Dude, I thought my voice could carry a little bit too much, but anyway. Money was no option. They were like, I want everything that I don't have. What do I need? Like, well, you need all of these things too. Didn't even spook them, dude. Like, they want all the stuff. And the rest of the country just kind of disregards the Pacific Northwest, because it has a reputation of being super liberal from a political standpoint. When you start, people look at Seattle.
We're going to get to that.
Yeah. And they look at those two cities and they just think, oh, the Pacific Northwest, it's just Portland and Seattle, maybe Eugene or whatever. And that's not the truth. That's not the reality.
Now, I had Representative Stube on. I want to touch on this as we stem into some of that political stuff. Yeah. I've had him on. We pushed for the Suppressor Act before. Now, when we get the House and Senate, and I say when we get,
without a doubt,
when we get it back, are you going to try to re-up for that? Are you guys going to try to push for that again?
You know what? I wish I could say yes or no. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, that it's dead in the water.
Yeah. But I thought we should have went for national reciprocity selfishly.
We should have. It should have. And it actually honestly should have happened. I don't know why it didn't.
Well, I have a theory. It didn't happen because the NRA, and Jason, I love you. The NRA's pushing for this constitutional carry, but I'm yet to have an elected official explain constitutional carry to me.
Dude, you're asking the wrong person.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't understand, what the logic is behind pushing that, because I think if you strip away the permit process and get rid of that side of it, it limits us. I think it's easier to go from the permit. The phase 2 would be to get NFA destroyed and done away with.
The NFA should go away.
And the NFA should be, if you want to charge $200, U.S. government, charge it at the register and let's do it there.
Right. Well, so I think this is part of the issue
What's the dream for you guys?
For the NFA, obviously, to go away, obviously. The reality of that happening, I think, is pretty slim to none. And, the last thing we want to do is put anybody in a position where they're waiting for something that realistically didn't happen during a friendly administration. And, having both the House and Senate and really a pretty friendly Supreme Court at that point in time. We still had, five? I think we still had a conservative majority in the Supreme Court at the time. So literally had every single branch of government, which was friendly, and for some reason couldn't get it through then. The likelihood of that happening anytime in the near future is pretty slim to none.
I think a better path is through the permit process. Treat it like a driver's license, and if you're approved for NFA items, you get like an N on your driver's license, and then you have the ability to just run a NICS check, and maybe the suppressor sits for a couple days, and then you can take it home.
Well, so
it's serialized.
Well, here's the thing. That makes too much sense, right? So the government isn't known for making sense, and they don't make things easy for anybody. I mean, shit, when you start looking at the IRS, you would think that the IRS process would be easier for them to be able to take more of your money, but they make it difficult for themselves too.
I know. So in your sales process, it's difficult because I've never talked to you about this because you have to account for that turnaround. I mean, the sale is at the point of purchase, but what a pain in the neck. And I can imagine what the customer service looks like for you guys. It's got to be an ocean of phones.
You know what? It isn't though. It really isn't. So customer service. So when we start looking at the customer service side of the house, customer service has to be used when you have a shitty product.
Oh,
and
it's a shot across the bow.
Well, I mean, you know, it's a thing, right? If the more you have to use customer service,
you're losing.
You are kind of losing. Yeah, it kind of speaks to the quality of your product, or maybe even the quality of the information that you're putting out regarding your product, because perhaps the end user isn't using it properly. Right?
I'd agree with that take. What do you stand on it? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm all in for that.
Yeah.
I mean, suppressors, they are a bit of an anomaly where your average gun guy doesn't own them and doesn't know about them. And that's the problem.
And that's what we're trying to change.
Because they've been afraid of that process that they have to go through, that year that they have to wait.
I'm glad you're bringing that up because that is one of the things that I've actually brought up on several occasions. It's not even the fact that your first time gun buyer doesn't know about suppressors.
Correct.
There's just a lot of misinformation, and the reality is you've got a lot of gun shops out there who, for better or for worse, just don't want to deal with the process itself either. So they may not be the best advocates for NFA products in general because they don't want to have to go through the process of either a Form 3 transfer to or from them or Form 4. So they discourage people, or they just won't bring it up because it's additional work.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. But you guys get out there and do a good job and make it as easy as humanly possible.
Oh, we try. I mean, that's more on the retail side of the house. I mean, our primary objective is to give people the most, I guess you could say, the most well-rounded, the quietest, with the most versatility of any suppressors on the market. And
I can attest to that.
I think we do that fairly well.
Now, it's crazy out there. We watched the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. What was your take on it? I want to get your take on this.
Hey, you mess with a bull, you get the horns, right?
Yeah,
that's the reality. I think that's what happens when you have people with a political agenda trying to dictate the way law enforcement does or doesn't do their job. But then you just open yourself up to all the things happening. I'm sure, Mr. Rittenhouse didn't necessarily want to have to be out there because by all accounts, he wasn't exactly, happy to be out there. And he was scared, I'm sure, with everything going on. You got chaos. It's an uncontrolled environment where,
it's amazing how calm and how it's 17 years old. I said this before on the show. He got everything right. In so many ways.
He did. I think he did. He carried himself as well as you can in that type of
at that age and that stage of the game, the stress, being in a very hostile situation. I said it before, that crowd's damn lucky he didn't turn and open up on them.
Well, I mean,
damn lucky.
They put themselves there.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Nobody look, all of that stuff going on was a result of what? Racial tension, right? There are people dissatisfied with what they believe were injustices carried out in a racist manner. The reality is most of the issues that I think happened in a variety of different cities, like wherever Rittenhouse was, dude, that's a pretty lily white part of the country. So who's burning down all these businesses?
Right.
I mean, what white guy over there was being racially profiled, and what gave him the right to want to burn down a car dealership? Right. Amen. That's the way I look at it.
I agree.
None of those people were there. They just wanted to cause trouble. Yeah. And they found trouble.
Does it surprise you how many stores are getting robbed and everything that's going on?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. That's what happens when you disenfranchise your law enforcement agencies and you don't give them the ability to do their job, knowing full well that the moment somebody gets arrested, they're just going to get let out anyway.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
What would they expect? The moment you start bashing law enforcement and you start, taking away their ability to enforce the law, and then you let everybody out with a slap on the wrist because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, you get what you have now.
Mm-hmm.
People will do whatever they want because they know there will be no repercussions.
How do we fix it, Dewey?
Dude, I don't know.
You're king for a day.
I'm king for a day. The laws are in the books, get enforced the way they are supposed to be enforced, regardless of, extenuating circumstances. It should just go right back to the way it was, facts don't care about your feelings. There's somebody that I know that says that quite often. Yeah. And the reality is laws are in the books. Those are documented. They are clear as day. And hence fact.
The Rogan thing's quite comical. We have to bring it up. Now, it's interesting. I watched Gutfeld last night. I was like, just watching it.
I don't have cable, by the way, so I don't watch any news.
Yeah, I get the stream. So we stream in here. We have streaming capability in here.
Yeah.
So we're high tech. So I see where they're coming from with trying to come for him. And we all get it. We're all from the same area. People who use words that hurt people. Mm-hmm. And we've all learned that lesson. I grew up, my friends that were Italian called me guinea, wop, greaseball. Greaseball was my favorite. Any friend listening from the old days would understand that. Because it was a joke because in the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, he called Griswold, he goes, hey, greaseball. So my friends used to say it to me all the time. Yeah. So I get it. And I understand.
Right.
But to pull a clip from 12 years ago?
Look, and it was taken out of context.
100%.
So, there was no, there are certain words, phrases, names, and whatnot that you could say where when in context, nobody gives you heat. But when somebody decides to take a clip, an audio clip, and then cut everything else out of it and say, look, he said it. He's a bad person. You look, okay, I'm not buying that either.
Yeah.
The number of people that, people, like Joe Rogan will interact with on a daily basis with, no inclination to, or no bias in his regard. He'll have everybody on his show. To me, that doesn't speak that he has any racial or racist inclinations or any of that business. It's smoke and mirrors, dude. It's people who don't like the fact that he is garnering a lot of attention, and they don't like what he has to say because they don't agree with it or they don't agree with any of his guests. The reality is he's basically giving people the opportunity to see a variety of different perspectives on a lot of different things.
What we need is a statute of limitations on speech. If I said it over 6 months ago, you can't hold it against me today. Times change.
People, it's like saying, how much have you changed in 12
years?
For
10 years. Yeah. Now you're politically motivated. It's suddenly an issue.
Well, if you're going to say something, at least make sure that, when somebody takes that audio clip, they keep the entire clip and keep it in context. So it's not misconstrued and misrepresented, which is exactly what has happened with those clips. Supposedly, I haven't heard any of it.
I haven't gone back and listened to them either. The point is, I feel it preposterous when people are like, hey, we're going to take this 12-year-old clip of John or Dewey or anybody. Look, people change. I'm not saying in 6 months someone changes, right? And I'm not saying if you go and you kidnap little kids, you're a different person 6 months later.
Right.
Nobody's saying that. Right. But to say language is the same as it was 12 years ago, or the meaning behind the language that you use, is absolutely preposterous. I'm going to say this. 2 years to 3 years is a cycle in someone's life. They're going to learn things. Things are going to change. Right. And in 2 to 3 years, to me, is the statute of limitations of you being able to go back, reach back and say, hey, you said this about, well, you have the right to say back, hey, listen, at the time, this is how I meant.
You know why I disregard it? Because I'll just use this as an example because it's the first thing that comes to mind. Like Eddie Murphy.
Oh, right? God.
Eddie Murphy,
the king.
Can you imagine him doing his stand-up now?
Dice.
Dude, he'd get crucified. He would get absolutely crucified.
One of the funniest human beings that ever lived.
He's still the funniest comedian in my mind ever outside of Richard Pryor, right?
Who didn't love that leather suit and Raw?
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
My God.
The things he said and did on stage about all kinds of different people.
Richard Pryor.
He would have been canceled, like literally physically canceled. People would be wanting to burn him at the stake.
I have a theory. I think cancel culture is coming to an end. I really do, because I just think people aren't buying it anymore.
I think people are just over it. Nobody's paying attention because people just got to the point where, like, tired of hearing people complain and cry and whine and this oversensitivity and stuff. When did we become so weak? So weak as a culture? Like, Jesus, my ears are bleeding because I can't hear this anymore. Like, what's wrong with these people?
I think people were at a point where people need to take a little bit of a stand with certain things, put a line in the sand and say, I'm willing to accept this, but I'm not willing to accept that. I agree with people that say, like the Stacey Abrams picture that came out, like, you can't castrate one and not the other. Like, look, she screwed up. Okay, I'm not saying I'm a Stacey Abrams fan, and by all means, the memes are hilarious.
Right.
But at the same time, she screwed up. Let her pay the penalty.
You're talking about the mask thing,
and all the kids are masked. Like, that was a bad photo op. And look, she posted the picture, and we get that.
Look, before you even get to that point, why is she getting a photo op anyway? Who is she? What has she done? She's a failed gubernatorial candidate. She's done nothing.
They put her on a pedestal.
Why? What has she accomplished?
Because she fits their narrative.
Thank you.
That's it. Because she fits the narrative. It's but the cancel culture piece, I think guys like Bill Maher will eventually be the bridge, because they're like, who's next?
Bill Maher's already being phased out.
Yeah.
His own constituencies don't like what he has to say because
he's not fitting the narrative.
He's not. And that's, I think he's funny. And I don't agree with him on everything.
He's a little more balanced.
But you know what? Ironically enough, firearms, right? During the craziness, the late great craziness during the pandemic and all the riots and everything.
I know where you're going.
He was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe there's something to this. When you call 911 and it takes never for the police to show up, and because of pandemic this and pandemic that, so we're not showing up for that call. Guess what? You probably should have a gun, right?
At the end of the day, I think you and I both can agree, and this is a good topic. During this COVID craze, I call it COVID commandos. During the COVID craze, right?
Right.
We've had this surgence on gun sales. We all know it, right? Sure. We don't know the number. People are throwing numbers around. At the end of the day, we have how many NICS checks there are, but we don't know what people are going home with necessarily.
Right.
And we don't know who's taking them home. Right. So the left is cooled on the gun thing because they know they can't shut the pipeline down, fuck with the border, and go after the gun thing. So we've seen a cooling on that.
Right.
What's going to be interesting is
temporary.
Temporary, yeah. But what I think is going to be interesting, until they get the data on who actually owns these guns, we're going to see a cooling on that. Now, with that being said, I think we're in a very interesting period where I think coming out of this, you're going to have, just like we have a lot of pro-choice Republicans, you're going to have a lot of pro-gun Democrats.
It's possible.
I think we've given rise to that because you and I both know that's not a right people give back.
So it's interesting because I don't have, like I said, I don't have TV, but, occasionally at home, I'll yell at Alexa, like, Alexa, play CBS News or whatever.
Yeah, just to get that headline.
Yeah, just to get that background noise going, and especially if I'm going to leave the house and leave the dogs by themselves or whatever. So, and there was this this documentary that they were talking about. It was talking about it was the history of gun regulations and all of that, right? And interestingly enough, they interviewed a bunch of African American gun owners in Texas, and staunch gun owners and supporters.
Sure.
And they did not hesitate to remind people that gun restrictions and regulations did not actually become a thing until the late 60s, when the Black Power movement started, and Black Panthers and all that started to gain a little bit more traction, and they started legally buying firearms. And then all of a sudden you had different organizations that were like, whoa, maybe we should start restricting some gun ownership. And this is according to this documentary.
No, I've seen it.
I heard. I hadn't seen it, but I was like, that's interesting. I didn't really think about that. And it was most of those restrictions, and they still are this way to this day, were focused around urban areas and gun ownership in urban areas. Not so much in rural areas, but you look at all your major metro areas like New York, Boston, LA, and some of these towns that even in like Texas, they want to to try to institute gun restrictions, and it makes you wonder why.
Yeah,
right?
It's interesting, and you're absolutely right. I have seen that data, and I have seen those highlights, and I've seen specials and documentaries that break it all down as to where gun rights came from. My thing is with it all, regardless, is people have to understand how the government works to navigate this. And part of the reason why I've been pro-permit and the reason I like the permitting process, because look, I'm a fan of the instructors first. As you know, just like you, a lot of the instructors are my friends. And I want to see that wheel spin round because that's money that flows through the industry.
Right.
And those guys are great conduits to get the folks to purchase more products, to get the guys to participate in the industry more, and to be a part of the wheel that spins round. So I've never been a fan of regulation. I see it a lot like this. If we go for national reciprocity and we have a licensing permit that's like a driver's license, we can get to the point where we can probably clear items quicker by making it an add-on to the license. And I think that's more palatable and a lot easier. I don't know what constitutional carry is because I've read the Constitution a few times, especially the Second Amendment. It doesn't address carrying at all. There's no addressing of carrying. So my fear is if we went to constitutional carry across the board, how hard is it for them to say, we're going to take that away and repeal that?
That I don't know.
You've got a few different problems there, though, John. One,
as
soon as you license or do something like that, you've now made it a privilege. You've taken it away from a right. You do not have a right to drive a car. Driving a car is a privilege.
Fair.
When you go into constitutional carry and the Second Amendment, as in most things, the Second Amendment doesn't specifically enumerate on every example of how something can be accomplished. So by having constitutional carry, it means everybody has an inherent right to self-defense, an inherent responsibility to their own self-defense.
Agreed.
And therefore, they have the right to carry and use the tools responsibly.
Why can't we? Yeah. Why can't we have both?
Both as in what?
Have constitutional carry and a license. Because if I want, because I want to get to the NFA and I want to get to the machine gun, Dave. You know what I'm saying? I want the green.
Mandated, it's back to being a privilege. Now, like anything, even Justice Scalia said, just because you have a right doesn't mean that they can't put certain restrictions on it or set limits or something along those lines. That's fine. We can say, all right, once we get to the machine gun level, thermonuclear weapons, hand grenades, whatever it is, we can cut a limit. You just can't cut it down to you can only have X number of bullets. You can't put any more than 2 of these 10 features on a gun because it suddenly becomes
it's not for not wanting us to have everything. My theory is more, how do we get this machine that is the government to the place that we all want to be? Like I want to have the ability to walk in and say, hey, I want to add a green permit to my license.
Well, so I mean, first off, we all want to be there because that's the way we see things. Unfortunately, there's that segment of the population that doesn't get it and doesn't agree with that. And for better, I'm actually going to say for worse, honestly, I think there are people, and even I think the NRA actually has, or maybe it's the NSSF. I think the NSSF even has data that is starting to show that people's opinions regarding the desire or need to have to own even like an MSR, right? Are slowly changing, not for the better, where they don't see that it is a necessity anymore. And that's unfortunate because I don't agree with that, obviously, at all. I think it's an absolute necessity. I think we should be like the Swiss, where everybody should be required to actually have, some semblance of a firearm, a long gun at home for, self-defense purposes.
I think the balance is somewhere between the two because I love NFA items and I'm trying to figure out a way to make it easier to turn that around, just as you are. Like I'm a big advocate of that. And I just don't see constitutional carry being the bridge that gets us there.
I don't know.
Yeah. To me, for example, Dave's 100% right. Everything he said is accurate. I agree with what he said. I just know the machine, like if what am I going to do? Show up in New York with my guns and say I got constitutional carry?
Yeah.
Is that going to work?
It's the United States still.
But you're subjecting yourself to the interpretation of that person in that moment.
Well,
otherwise it's going to cost you $20,000 to get out of it.
You know what I think honestly should happen? We're all taught about the Constitution in school, right? First, second, third, fourth, all the amendments and, the Bill of Rights in general. I mean, it's part of our history and social studies. And there are a bunch of other classes that we take. When you're in high school, you do all these home ec classes. Why is it that like firearm safety and basic marksmanship is no longer a thing.
I agree with that 100%.
Because I think a lot of the misconceptions and the fear regarding firearms is due to a lack of education and a lack of proper dissemination of accurate information.
Which leads us to the Alec Baldwin situation.
Oh, Jesus. Well, that's just pure arrogance anyway, and being irresponsible. So, I don't even that whole situation. I think whatever.
Well, I mean, I said it on air. Listen, he's not going to suffer any criminal charges because you know what it's like on those movie sets. Listen, everybody has to understand. You sign 95 indemnifications whenever stunts are performed on a set, and a lot of people have called for he should be arrested, he should be this, he should be that. Listen, I agree with everybody, but at the end of the day, they're going to come after him civilly as a producer, and he's going to get absolutely crushed. His career is over. Yeah, don't get me wrong, his career is over.
I bet it's not.
You think he'll survive it?
Oh yeah, dude, it's Hollywood. It's total.
I think he's old enough where they're going to kind of say, you got to kind of ride off into the sunset on this one. I don't think they're ready to bring that. I don't know.
I don't think he's done, man. I'm telling you.
He never had big roles to begin with.
He didn't. He was just kind of like he was a Baldwin, right?
Yeah.
So it's a famous name, so it is what it is. He was bigger in the 80s than he's ever going to be ever again. But the reality is he's not done. They'll look out for his own.
I loved the toothless statements that came out after Dewey that were like The Rock, being like, oh, we're not going to use any live guns on set. No shit. Everyone advocates that. It's like, no shit.
It's what service.
It's absurd. Absolutely. It's absurd. That was a few people came out and said that, and I was like, well, no shit.
Well, yeah, but look, I'm going to use this as an example.
You don't need practical effects anymore.
No. Let's use this as an example. So I've been the last couple of days. I finished watching Reacher on Amazon Prime, right? Yeah. And I like the series. It was fun. It was a fun series to watch. What I found hilarious is within 24 hours of that show coming out, you got these guys, and we're all in the gun industry, right? So a lot of our friends critique, and they're like, oh, 95 grain, 9mm is not subsonic, and you wouldn't blah 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 blah. And I'm like, look. It's a TV series based on a fake book about a fake dude in a fake town doing fake things. Obviously, that information is going to be fake. The reality is, to the 99% of the population are going to watch this for entertainment value, that small little detail means nothing at all. Any more than the fact that Margrave isn't a real town in Georgia. It doesn't mean anything.
Like Glock's a porcelain gun. That's a Die Hard 2 line in case anybody's interested. And listen, there's always going to be, and we love those movies.
Disconnect.
Yeah, there's a disconnect. And look, on set, you're not always going to have the best advisors. You can tell movies that do. But even John Wick, that the industry lauded as a a movie that got it right accurately. Go look at that. I mean, look, Keanu did a phenomenal job. The movie was right. The first one was really well done in terms of, but I mean, people throwing arm bars and doing headshots. I mean, look, people got to understand there's movie, it looks cool. It looks really cool. We all agree.
Dude, no way. Every single one of these movies is absolutely a primer on what to do.
And you're not fighting everybody in New York City and living to tell about it. Trust me.
Oh, yeah. You're going to get hit with a crowbar and walk away with it. You just shake it off, right?
Yeah. And look, it looks cool. And I know his jacket, his blazer absorbed 9,000 shots.
Oh, my God.
But people have to understand, it's still a movie. It's training for those situations. Nobody trains for those situations.
Take it way too seriously. Yeah. Our people take it way too seriously.
Oh my God.
You'll lighten up. It's just a movie. Be entertained. Know that it's not real. None of it is real. That's right. That firearm detail is not accurate. It's okay because it's not real.
I wanted to ask you, does it surprise you how nitpicky the industry is? And is that a maturity piece? You brought it up.
No, it's not a maturity thing. It's a guy thing. Look at me.
Fuck him.
I know all the things. I'm a gun guy, so I know all the gun things.
I invented it.
I'm going to tell you what you already know. That's what it is.
It bothers the shit out of me that people are like, his fingers on the trigger. Well, maybe he's fucking shooting.
Look, who cares? It's fake. It is fake. If you want to call somebody out for doing that, do it when you go to the range. I guarantee you'll see it at the range. most of these guys that will critique this stuff don't spend enough time shooting themselves. They're just sitting in their basement, their mom's basement, being like, 95 grain is not subsonic, blah, blah, blah. You're worried about all this stuff.
Everyone's a ballistician all of a sudden.
Dude, it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It is crazy. Listen, I think
mildly entertaining.
I think Hollywood gets a lot right with firearms more than usual. I think the Alec Baldwin situation was very unfortunate.
Sure.
Insanely unfortunate.
Anytime there's a loss of life, absolutely. Especially in such a careless way, you know. And by all accounts, these people that were shot, the young lady who was killed, they were all very nice people.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I also don't know any of the circumstances behind what happened. I just know that you never point a firearm at somebody.
Always.
In this particular case, I don't even think they were filming.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like a joke thing. You don't joke around like that. But that just indicates their level of like carelessness and their lack of respect for these things, other than just to ban them and take them away from everybody because somebody said that they're bad.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because you're 100% right. Like, no one sits in here and is drawing down on someone 10 times. And at the end of the day, that's what he did.
Well, look, you like MMA. You're a fighter, you know, and you got fighters coming in here all the time, right? If people understood the skill sets of these guys who are training routinely, they would find that those guys are much more dangerous than many people with a firearm, because the likelihood of you actually having to engage with somebody in an actual physical fight is more likely, and you having to be able to defend yourself
100%
than with a firearm.
Yeah, I mean, people,
but that's not regulated.
And you know, you've been in this business long enough. The last 10 years as combatives and as like weight training and physical training have come into the business, and we've all had a hand in that. You included. Tony, guys like Pat McNamara, all kinds of guys that have brought this into the industry. It was always there.
Right.
And that's what we've tried to explain to people. It was always there. SIG built a damn fitness thing outside 20 years ago. I mean, look, it was always there. And people, it started to come into the limelight, but people don't understand. You can't be the dusty buckle boot guy that just goes out and buys a gun and call yourself tactical. Call yourself Johnny Tactical. It doesn't work.
But you can in some circles,
circles. There's a lot of, I always say there's actors in this world. Some are good and some are bad.
Oh, absolutely.
At the end of the day. And there's a lot, not just in the ambassador circles, but people that, you know, say, hey, like we said, you know, I'm going to draw this 10 times. Well, listen, people who do that religiously, JJ Racaza, Max Michel, they're training at home. They're very meticulous about their setups and what's involved in it. They're not loading the gun and pointing it at someone as a joke. And that's what it turned into. And that's where it went off the rails.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate. It really is. It really is. But, you know, a lot of those people that you were talking about, I mean, it is a part of life for them. It's not just a hobby, or it's not just a pastime or a cursory interest. It is literally a thing for them day in and day out. And for people who honestly want to believe that they take it that seriously, they should, you know, it should be a part of their daily routine.
And there's
nothing wrong with dry firing if you can't find ammunition. There's nothing wrong with practicing a draw or something like that when, you know, you're sitting around getting fat watching TV.
And there's a difference between flagging guys, like maybe you have your rifle hung low and it could have been pointed at someone's toe for all the critiquers out there. There's a difference. There's a difference between that and drawing and pointing at someone.
Right.
Very different animals. Flagging happens. It happens at times. People could dress it on ranges, whether they toss them off, or I've seen even guys like Dom Rosso say you have to finish the course without a gun. I've seen it happen on ranges, you know, and people learn, hey, you cannot do that. It's unacceptable.
Right.
There's a difference. It's the intent, and it's not something to joke about. But I agree with you. It needs to. I would love to see it back in schools. We'll never see it back in schools. We'll never see the education. You think we'll ever get back to that, Dave? I mean, you're a
We can't even get archery back in the schools.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you know, these sticking a string, you can't get that.
I hadn't thought about that.
That's a sobering thought right there. Thank you. That is a very sobering thought.
I know. I took archery in college.
He's like, we can't even get a blowgun in the schools anymore. So you can't shoot a spitball.
That's exactly. We're
COVID
pea shooters, right?
Shooting COVID balls.
COVID balls. Yeah, that's really dangerous.
COVID balls.
People freak out about that.
Seriously, we used to remember that. Man, we used to shoot spitballs. It's crazy.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, amongst all the other things.
I love that. fucking
get
love
away
that.
with it.
That was awesome. After lunch,
Now you get arrested. If you're a kid.
He hit me with a dart.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you: is it surprising to you that we both ended up in this business, being where we're from?
You know what? Like growing up when I was 17, 18, I mean, I left Quincy, Mass when I was 17.
Right.
I never would have thought about it because I didn't think about the industry back then. I was so focused on joining the Army. Nothing else. That was all I wanted to do.
The New England never leaves you, though.
No, not really. Not really. There's still that attitude.
We just know how to win.
Well, yeah. Well, there's that. But here's the other thing. I think it doesn't leave you, but at the same token, I've gotten older. Dude, I'll be 47 this year.
God bless you.
Yeah, right.
You look 27.
Dude, I don't feel like that when I wake up every morning.
You guys should see this guy. He's ripped.
But, you know, that's work. Well, so, I mean, that's just 34 years of nonstop just training in one form or another, you know.
Every day.
You just can't quit. There's, not to go back to the COVID thing, but, you know, when gym shut down and everything, couldn't go. You know, I was like, all right, I got to get all my stuff loaded down the basement with everything and just started working out because I couldn't stand looking at myself in the mirror anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, this is disgusting. Like, I can do better than that. And, you know, if you let yourself go, it's a lot. As you get older, it's a lot harder trying to get it back.
Oh, my God.
You know?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yep.
It's a lot of work. I mean, listen, people always want to play a card and like, look, at the end of the day, I know this because I go to the 6 a.m. class at 10th Planet. Anybody who wants to find me, that's where I am. If you want to fight on a mat, hey, that's where I am. 6 a.m. class at 10th Planet. I'm up at 3:30 and I go to the gym, but I love it.
Yeah, I can't imagine going through the rest of my life and not going to a gym or doing something, training in some form or another. You know,
I feel like it gives you an edge.
It totally does. It keeps everything sharp, you know. But going back to, you know, the roots, I mean, dude, I don't really stay in touch with anybody back in Mass at all.
No, I don't know.
It's just kind of moved on, you know. I've seen a lot of different, you know, things. There's a lot of different places that I'd much rather spend my time.
I keep a soft spot for folks from home. So like, for example, like when I moved out here, one of the first people I called was Jay. One of the first people I called, you know, was Dana, and try to reach out to him and say, I'm going to be in town because I just believe in that community type atmosphere. So I'll always acquiesce to the guys from home.
It's the people though, you know, it's not necessarily the place. So like, you know, I can appreciate all the people that, you know, I grew up with and was around that community. And those people aren't really all there anymore. You know, a lot of people moved away. So, I mean, do I have a sore spot for, you know, for the town itself? I miss Boston. You know, I miss certain aspects of Boston. I don't miss the weather. I don't miss the taxes or any of that. But and my brother still lives up there. But other than that, dude, I mean, Jesus, I'm pretty happy in Utah. I never would have seen myself living in Utah.
Yeah. Jesus. I never would have imagined Vegas. I mean, you know, I was sitting in Miami and I got the call from this guy, you know, come on down. I was sitting in Miami with Tony. And we were just going out, whatever. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to take a little time. You know, after I had left my last stop, I was like, let's figure this out. Yeah. He calls me and says, how fast can you get in a car and get to Vegas? So, you know, then we ended up slinging AKs for a while. It was like, you know, it was fun. But at the same time, you know, I look back and I look at, you know, where we came from and the people there. And I think about it. It's like, it's crazy that we got in the gun business. That part.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Especially since it's so far from it. Yeah. Now on the flip side of that, I mean, dude, it's a fighting town.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back to when, you know, growing up, I was literally getting in a fight every single weekend.
Quincy was rough. You had to deal with the Southie kids and the Charlestown kids.
Dorchester,
Charlestown, Roxbury.
I mean, Quincy itself is just like, if you were from like North Quincy, you're going after the kids from like South Quincy.
Yeah. It could have been rougher. You could have been from Brockton. I know a couple Secret Service agents from Brockton, a couple guys down there, but like, it's hilarious. I'm like, don't fuck with them. They're from the boogie down. Don't fuck with them. But it's a great community, and it's nice to see guys. The reason I bring it up so much, it's nice to see guys from that area doing well, hustling, making stuff happen. It's exciting. And I think it has something to do with the time period.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Jesus. Look at our contemporaries, like, you know, time frame wise, the Wahlbergs, right?
Yep. Mark and Donnie, you know, you had what's his face? The other two, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. You had
but it's different. They didn't grow up.
Patrick Ewing was at Cambridge Ridge and Latin.
Mm-hmm.
I could go on and on.
Yeah,
I know everybody that came out of there. Dana came out of there. Bill Burr.
That's right.
Joe Rogan.
Yep.
Newton North, Newton South. Those guys.
Yep.
John Krasinski.
Yep.
I could keep going.
That's right. There's a lot.
I could keep going.
But
I keep tabs on everyone. I got files.
It's our age demographic. Yeah. I don't know how kids are now.
Yeah, but you got to respect it because it was like a 30-mile radius of just, spitting fire for a while.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
And then obviously the sports kicked off and we had 20 years of dominance.
Yep.
So
I do miss that.
Yeah.
I do miss that.
What do you think of the Brady thing?
When I read his farewell tweet,
you think it was a dig?
No,
I don't either.
No, absolutely not. I don't know why people he didn't even give props to his wife, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was. I think he was saying goodbye to his team first.
Exactly.
That's what I think it was.
He did it right because they were his team and his constituency there in Tampa Bay. He had to give him props because they did support him for the last year and a half, 2 years. He did the same thing to all his New England fans when he left New England.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a dig at all. People just want to be dramatic about it.
Is he a unanimous vote? Should be, so. But is he?
Should be. I think he should be. I mean, who else has accomplished what he's managed to accomplish in the NFL in his time span?
Yeah. What a winner, huh?
Dude, people hate him because they wish they could be him.
What a winner. It's all you can say. You got to tip your hat to it. What a winner.
Dude, well, I mean, look, I could say that between him and even Bledsoe's 1 year, and then I'll go all the way back to like the Grogan years.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like
Hugh
the
Millen.
80s. Yeah, right.
Most people can't name the quarterback before Bledsoe. Hugh Millen.
Jesus. See, now that
preceded
I forgot.
Before him, Zolak.
Oh, yeah. I remember
Scotty
Zolak,
Six Guns.
Yeah. But, then I start thinking about the Bruins and I start thinking about the Celtics and, that town itself, as far as I don't care what anybody says about New York, Boston is the sports town.
Yeah.
Boston is a sports
and
town.
Growing up, we loved hoops. People don't understand that. Hoops was the shit.
It was it.
I couldn't play worth a lick.
No, dude, well, I mean, look at me. I'm vertically challenged.
Me too.
But I miss watching the Bees more than anything.
Yeah.
Because that was my jam right there, man.
Hockey was the shit.
There were a couple, every single time how many times did they go to the Stanley Cup and lose in the late 80s, early 90s?
Bill Ranford.
Jeez.
Andy Moog.
Yep. Andy Moog.
The ultimate bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yep. But my favorite player of all time is Kenny Linsman. The rat, dude. Because he was a sly. He was.
Marshawn was a better rat.
Yeah, he was. But Linsman was just like the guy who would just he would just get in your head and then just smirk about it like in the corner.
I got to sign Neely and Orstick in there.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's up on the thing.
No
I'll show
way.
you. Yeah, I liked Neely the way he played. I respected it, and I think because of the way he played, he was like in his early years was like an Ovechkin like player, and that's a good blue collar, hardworking guy.
Machine,
and if he didn't break his hip, he would have been an all timer. Not that he wasn't, but
he should still be.
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame.
But he doesn't get the same level of attention that
a lot of
does.
people look at him as like a Jim Rice career or a Sandy Koufax career where he dominated for 6-7 years where it was like like Jim Rice was the debate in baseball, right?
Right.
But a lot of people said for 6 years he was the motherfucker. Like he didn't, he was right there with Reggie Jackson for 6 years, 7 years. He was killing it.
Yep.
And he was a staunch defensive player too.
It's true.
And that gets in baseball, that gets underrated.
It's true.
A little bit in hockey too.
Yeah, I think so.
Because Gretzky had no defense whatsoever at all.
He was a goal scorer.
Yeah.
That's all he was.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I think somebody's getting ready to break one of his records, though. I can't remember who it is.
He might have the safest records. Now, that brings the next question. Are all of Brady's records untouchable? I mean, they never say never, right? But is anyone ever going to see that again?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
That's a really good question. I don't know.
You can never say never, right? But it's amazing.
I mean, it's hard to find that combo. You got Belichick and you had his skill set, and then you had Belichick's ability to build a team around him. I mean, who else has that ability now in the NFL? And I mean, think about it. The way free agency is right now, I don't know.
It's hard.
It is.
It's gonna be hard.
Everybody's chasing the dollars.
It was exciting to have for the time we had it.
And it's going to change.
What?
College sports, college football. Yeah. Did you see what they're doing now?
They're paying. Well, you can make money now.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
Yes.
But I think that's going to be the 1%ers versus the 99% others. Like, I think there's going to be 1 or 2 players on every team that can actually make a buck. Unless you're at Michigan or Ohio State or some of these brands.
Big programs, like money is not an object. I mean, you start looking at schools like Texas A&M.
Well, that's what Bo Sandoval just went from the UFC.
Alabama, or you go to Georgia, or any of these programs that are so well established and they have an alumni association that has deep pockets. Dude, everybody's getting paid.
Everyone's getting paid. Yeah, it's amazing. But those old 30 for 30s with like the TCU teams and everything, they were like, we had so many players on the payroll, we couldn't take them off the payroll. That was crazy then. That was crazy. I agree. I think the athletes not making a buck is the dumbest shit ever, but like I get why schools did it, and I understand it, and I get what they were trying to do with amateur athletics. I think we all do. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I try to explain that to people in the case of the LeBron situation. LeBron James was an 18-year-old that got $100 million. I mean, people go to him for political advice. It's insane.
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, it's insane. Go ahead.
Okay. Just because you get national level attention and you can play checkers doesn't mean that your political opinion has any more weight than his or mine or anybody else. That's what I don't understand about these people that, they get given a stage to say whatever they want. And what do you know?
No repercussion.
Dude, not only that, but they live in a bubble. You make that much money and you're surrounded
Don't get me started on that.
By like yes people who do everything you want. You don't live in the real world, so you don't know what the real world is. Don't try to play it like you.
It's like the Hillary Clinton thing. Let me say this. I said this to a few people. I said Hillary Clinton in the last 30 years probably hasn't been in a room by herself.
Oh, geez.
I said, think about that for 1 second. Really let that settle in.
Right.
She probably hasn't been in a room by herself. Probably has not had a moment where she hasn't had an assistant. Right. And when she goes on shows and she's like, and I'm not going to say the show, you can figure it out. But she says things like, when I eat, I like to use hot sauce. She tries to do that to sound common.
Yeah.
And what happens is people eat it up.
Right.
And they say like, oh yeah, hot sauce. And I'm like, this fucking bitch. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. The placating is insane.
It's really sad. It's actually shameful. So, and you kind of want to feel bad for him, but at the same time, no, you just can't.
So listen, I know we're going to go long, but what's next for you? What's next for SilencerCo?
We got a product release coming up day after tomorrow, actually. So this is good timing. And it's not like anything else that we've done. We've got several.
It's a new car.
No, but it's something that just about if you're into running carbines, and I'll just say you could pick it up for very little money.
Integrated suppressor technology.
Well, no. No, I can't really give any hints because I've been sworn to secrecy, and it's kind of my job to not kind of spill the beans this early.
Damn you.
It's day after tomorrow anyway, so it's not that long. But we've got a few other product releases coming out this year.
Will one show up here? That's the $1 million question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, yes. So I'm not going to say checks in the mail, but I'll get one out in the mail as soon as I get back to the office.
Amen.
So you can run it on one of these lovely platforms.
Send it to 702 or to Dark Alliance.
Yeah. So I'll send you a couple. Yeah. So you can play around with them.
Yeah.
And then we'll
put one on the wall
on that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you can come back and take it whenever you want. I mean it.
No, it's yours, man.
Once it's here, you can play with it all you want.
It'll be good.
Let everybody know where they can find you, how they can reach you, and how they can get in touch.
So the best way to me personally, or
no, just the brand and what you want out there.
I mean, check out www.silencerco.com. We've got an Instagram page which always posts up some pretty cool content.
Yeah, it is cool.
We tend to do an Instagram live every Thursday right around noon. Nice. If Instagram blocks us, then generally you have to go to Facebook, which, by the way, has been very, very interesting because
I know.
We've actually gotten quite a bit of traction on Facebook, more so than Instagram.
I think he's realizing government supervision's coming, and he's starting to
I think the game. He's worried because he's lost so much business on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And he came right out and said it.
Stock took a, what,
$30 billion,
dude.
$30 fucking billion.
26% drop.
0, and then a lot of zeros.
That is the largest drop in a stock value in history.
Is it really?
History, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck.
Yep.
Oh my God.
But it's because he's like, because we, he gave all kinds of excuses for it to happen. But anyway, I can't speak to that because I don't own any.
No, we don't. I don't know. Who knows what's going on with him? Who's going on?
So anyway, so Facebook Live too. If we get blocked from Instagram for some reason, and then check out the YouTube channel, subscribe to that because we're trying to get a little bit more traction on that. I think YouTube is one of those mediums that is not really used to its fullest potential.
100%. Not by our industry, by any stretch.
I mean, it's pure education at that point. You know, it's not even a sales thing. It's education, so we could teach people the ins and outs of the products, how to properly use them, maintain them, and everything else from that perspective. Plus the technical information that we like to post up there too, so people understand the science behind these things. So we've been using YouTube a lot more for that.
I think the industry is going to move more towards that streaming audio space. I think it's a better space for them.
Education is key. Look, this format here is awesome.
Yeah, I'll out content any company.
Well, the reality is, like, people want to be in tune with people that they believe are in the know, right? And there's no better way to kind of get people to feel like they're part of the community than being able to make them feel like they're part of the conversation. You know, I wish there were a way that we could, entertain calls and, answer questions from end users. That would be another thing altogether.
Yeah, we get the feed here, and shout out to Eric K for sharing all the links and buying a badge. Go out and buy a badge, guys. It's a way to recognize the show. Guys, come on and we'll comment and we'll share. And I agree with you. The interactive approach of like an Instagram live or things like that are great mediums to explore, and just brands get so reluctant to do them. I know you guys have done them.
I'm not afraid to do it. I actually prefer it. You know why? I think education is the most important thing, honestly. And I think, I don't know that. And it gives you the opportunity to actually, hear the opinions and the feedback from people who matter. The people out there matter. I don't matter. I mean, I don't.
Neither do I.
I work for the company, and I have a hand in developing product, but I don't develop it unless I have the opportunity to talk to the guys out there who are actually using it.
Yeah, when I brought this to the industry, my dream was to put people in front of a gun wall and have a less invasive conversation, because I thought brands got way too far into the minutia, the weight. I agree we need a spec sheet, but I think people got too deep into the weeds with that, and everything turned into QVC after that. And I think that's great for a sales team running a marketing team.
Sure.
But if you're going to have a marketing team flesh things out, I think streaming and I think platforms like audio are going to come in heavier, because at the end of the day, video is dominant, and you have to be able to articulate yourself, which is going to put a lot of the Instagram superstars in a lurch a little bit, because if you can't communicate and you can't talk and you can't flesh out your points, like at the end of the day, what are you fighting for? And my goal is to put as many people in front. Like Taron Butler said it, and I have to give him credit. He goes, I just want to put guns in people's hands and have them shoot them and enjoy the sport or not like the sport.
Right.
And I think that's a great line. And I just want to put people that like say, hey, here's 500 people who stand with us.
Right. Well, I mean, you got to share a passion, right? So I appreciate everything on this wall for what it is. I mean, this is like a work of art. I mean, this is a dream come true for a lot of people, because a lot of people couldn't afford, probably like 95% of the stuff that you have up here on the wall. And it's awesome, because you don't see it every day.
Right.
And the best part about this type of format is giving people the opportunity to hear about it, and then have it, set a goal for themselves, say, hey, look, I would love to be able to own a Viltor gun over there. It'd be awesome if I could, but I want to know more about it. People want to know about it without being like talked to, and they don't want to be sold on it. They just want to hear how it might help them or might fill a need that they have.
100%.
And I would much rather do that than try to pitch something to somebody who has no interest in a pitch, because people see through it.
Right.
I see through it.
And it's not a good long tail sales story.
It's not.
At the end of the day, you're going to do business with people you love.
Sure.
And you have to know about them to love them.
Well, people that you have a connection with. So look, I'm not just into this stuff. I'm into a lot of different stuff. And it's about building that community and building like fellowship with your fellow man, so to speak, to get really deep. This is just a means, a conduit. It's one of those things that I really, really appreciate, amongst all the other things, like all the the pop culture stuff that you have sitting here, I'm geeking out, dude.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And that's what I wanted. I took everything that I observed in the industry the last 5 or 6 years, and I said, let's just throw it up into a fantasy factory like thing. And I used to have a Sorinex in here. So you talk about, training.
Yeah.
And I think these are all, again, that was a little bit much. It was a bridge too far to try to put a gym in here too. And eventually we'll get there.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. We'll get there. But I got to get a bigger place.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to create something that people could come in and have a conversation and be stimulated.
Sure.
And want to talk about all these different things. So you have to create that stimulation.
Yep.
And you do that both video wise and audio wise. And you create that environment where people, just look around like you do and say, geez, I really like that, or I enjoy comic books too, or I enjoy this or that, whatever it is.
Yep.
And it creates a conversation. And that's part of the thing we're trying to build here, and put these pictures and say, hey, these are our guys.
Yeah.
This is our gals, whoever it is. Yep. Listen, I love having you. You promise to come back?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I'd love to have you again.
Yeah. I mean, we're just hanging out.
Yeah.
So, and any opportunity we have to just,
I want to figure out a way to get a mic on people and a camera when they walk in the door, so I can get that too.
Dude, my mind was blown. I was like, this is like literally walking in. It's like, if I had $1 million and I could build out my basement and make a man cave, this is exactly how it would be. It would be awesome.
I didn't think you would think that I would be doing this in my basement with a green screen.
No, I knew that because I've seen pictures of like certain parts of the set, but I was like, dude, there are all the things that you could easily, if you're a dude, easily geek out over anything in here.
We're trying not to fuck around for 1 second here. That's the goal. And I want SilencerCo to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So
absolutely.
Listen, I love you and I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me, John.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you to all the sponsors. Head over to the website. Guys, buy a badge. I'd appreciate the badge buy. Eric K., thank you. Everybody else, please, support the show by supporting the sponsors. I want to thank a few of them now. Head over to the website, johnbartoloshow.com. There's a complete list there. Thank you to Sig Sauer. Thank you to Right On. Thank you to Secure. Thank you to Pulsar. Thank you to Rhino Metals for all the tables and furniture in here. Appreciate them, and I appreciate every brand that supports the show. Go check out their podcasts and all their stuff and buy something from them. And shout out to SilencerCo and Dewie. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, John.
We're out.